Exposed, 7 sinister motel secrets that will haunt you forever. Discover the cursed Chronicles. As the fading sun sank beneath the horizon, Sarah gripped the steering wheel tighter, her knuckles white with tension. The roadside motel loomed ahead, its flickering neon sign buzzing with a ghostly sound. Vacancy. This place should have screamed danger, but desperation pushed her forward. After losing their home, beggars couldn't be choosers, and the cheap rates sent her thoughts racing with the possibility of a fresh start. Just one night, she whispered, stealing glances at her 2 children in the back seat. Jamie, 8, fiddled with his toy car while 6-year-old Lily stared wide-eyed at the peeling walls of the motel. The moment they stepped inside the musty room, an unsettling chill enveloped them. The air felt thick around her, as if the walls themselves whispered secrets of despair. Sarah caught a whiff of something rotten, and her stomach clenched. "It's okay, kids," she reassured them, forcing a smile. They unpacked their meager belongings, her thoughts racing. This was temporary, just a pit stop, right? She settled in, reading bedtime stories as shadows danced in the dim light. Then Jamie's innocent words sliced through the fragile sense of safety. "Mom, I saw a boy. He is sad. He wants to go home." Cold dread crawled down Sarah's spine. "What does he look like?" she asked, trying to mask her fear. Jamie's eyes widened with innocent terror. "He has messy hair and he's just really sad." Panic twisted in her gut. She made excuses: tiredness, overactive imaginations. They'd sleep, head out in the morning. But dread pinned her to the spot, pounding in her chest as the room seemed to breathe. The relentless quiet began whispering its own sinister truths, stories of people lost to time, whose lives crumbled behind this fate-tempting facade. As darkness wrapped around them, the motel manager, Patrick, introduced himself. He loomed too close, his smile too wide, the hint of something dark in his eyes. "You'll be fine here," he said, leaning against the doorframe, his voice low and inviting but filled with an unshakable hint of something sinister. He spun tales of previous guests, each story laden with grief and chilling fate, leaving Sarah's heart racing. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Morning arrived but brought no comfort. Sarah rushed to pack, and then froze. The doors wouldn't budge. Patrick's gaze was unyielding, a predator watching its prey. "You can't leave yet," he said, his voice smooth like ice. An overwhelming sense of entrapment clawed at her insides as the wind howled against the motel walls. The children clung to her, sensing the unspeakable tension clotting in the air. The world outside had turned bleak. Shadows crept closer, the air thick with foreboding secrets waiting to be unearthed. "I saw him again," Lily whispered, tugging at Sarah's sleeve. Panic set in momentarily before Sarah's protective instincts kicked in. She could feel the walls closing in, their haunting whispers rising to a crescendo. Jamie pressed close, whispering, "Mom, I think he's the one trapped." With a racing heart, Sarah realized they were ensnared in a web of unspeakable horrors, where time blurred and despair reigned. The door to room 7 stood slightly ajar, taunting her. Whatever fate awaited behind that door could either save them or swallow them whole. With dread clawing at her heart, she took a step forward, knowing the clock was ticking. The motel appeared alive, breathing, ready to reclaim what it had lost. Despair clawed at her resolve. Could she truly protect her children from the echoes of lost souls lurking within those cursed walls? The door creaked open at her hesitant touch, revealing darkness that seemed to pulse with an unseen heartbeat. Sarah held her breath, glancing back at Jamie and Lily, who stood frozen, their wide eyes fixed on the gloom ahead. "Stay close," she whispered, her voice a mere tremor in the suffocating silence. She stepped inside, her footfall swallowed by the heavy air. The room, imbued with an oppressive weight, looked like it hadn't been disturbed in decades. Dust motes floated in the small sliver of light seeping through a grimy window, illuminating cracked walls adorned with peeling wallpaper depicting scenes of long-lost joy. "Mom!" Jamie called, trembling slightly. She couldn't bring herself to turn back to them, not while curiosity and dread tangled in her gut. "Just a moment," she replied sharply, forcing her voice to remain steady. As she scanned the corners of the room, a chill racked her body. Then she saw a broken toy car half buried under the bed, the same model Jamie had been playing with earlier. Her heart raced. Did his eyes gleam with a world of memories? What happened here? Sarah whispered to herself, stepping toward the debris. Before she could touch it, something caught her eye in the dark, an old photo resting on a peeling nightstand. She picked it up, feeling a heaviness settle over her. It was a family portrait, smiling faces forever frozen in time. The dad, tall and cheerful, had the same messy hair Jamie had described. The boy was at him. Tearing her gaze away, Sarah turned back to the door. "We need to go, kids. Now." She rushed back. But when she reached the threshold, it slammed shut. Panic surged in her, and she pounded on the door, glancing back at the children. "Don't worry, we'll get out." A sinking dread clawed at her heart. "Mom!" Lily cried. Jamie screamed, "He's here." The boy. Fear surged through her as she felt the air turn colder, the shadows in the room darkening. A flicker of movement danced just beyond her peripheral vision. "Get away from there!" Sarah shouted, rushing back to the center of the room. "It's not safe." But it was too late. The door creaked open again, and standing outside was Patrick, his smile wider than ever, but now his eyes were void of warmth. "You shouldn't have come in here," he warned, his voice low and echoing. "You've woken him." Behind him, shadows shifted grotesquely, taking on the form of lonesome figures, beckoning her with clawed hands. The whispers erupted in Sarah's head, deafening her thoughts as they melded with guttural cries, lost souls yearning for freedom. Jamie and Lily were curdling in terror behind her, their small bodies pressed tight against the wall. "Mom!" They yelled, their voices breaking through the howling chaos. "Stay behind me," she ordered, forcing her gaze forward. Anguish twisted in her chest. She couldn't let them be taken, not like this. In one swift motion, Patrick lunged into the room. "You've disturbed too much," he snarled, the shadows swirling fiercely around him like a storm. As Sarah instinctively pushed her children toward the door, the very ground beneath them trembled. "Run!" she shouted, flinging herself in front of the kids. The shadows stirred with rage, lashing out, threatening to pull them into the void. "The price of curiosity is high," Patrick hissed, and the walls seemed to breathe with his words, threatening to strip them of their safety. Sarah's mind raced as she contemplated the choice before her: confront the malevolent force supporting the motel or flee into the unknown horrors lurking just outside. In an instant, the photos they had glimpsed flipped in her mind like a terrifying movie reel. "I want to let this happen," she screamed, her survival instincts igniting in a blaze of defiance. But a booming voice echoed from the shadows, "You're too late." With desperation mounting, Sarah lunged towards the door, her heart pounding against the terror threatening to engulf them. Would she make it out alive, or was she destined to join the ranks of lost souls forever trapped in this cursed place? As she reached for the handle, time stopped. What awaited them outside? Would the sinister manager let them flee, or had they already signed a contract far worse than they ever imagined? As Sarah's fingers brushed the cold metal of the doorknob, she felt an inescapable force pulling her back into the room. The tremors beneath her feet intensified, making it nearly impossible to maintain her balance. With a swift, desperate twist, she yanked the door open just as a chilling fog swept through the threshold, wrapping around her like icy fingers. "Go!" She screamed, shoving Jamie and Lily ahead, but the shadows writhed and coiled around them like serpents, clawing at her ankles, pulling her closer to the darkness. Jamie reached out, eyes wide with absolute terror. "Mom, please." His voice cracked, and all Sarah could see were his pleading eyes, brighter than the dim light surrounding them. "Just a little further," she yelled. Before they could break free, the shadows surged forward, a terrifying wave of darkness. Laughter echoing and distorted filled the air. It was the sounds of children, twisted and malicious, mocking her desperation. Sarah felt her heart shatter under the weight of this darkness, the laughter growing louder, wrapping around her mind. "Stop it!" she shouted, desperation spilling from her lips like venom. She lunged at the creeping horror, the cold grip of the shadows attempting to draw her into the void. Grabbing Jamie's hand, she pulled him back as she swung her other arm fiercely, trying to fend off the darkness wrapped around her legs. "Hold on. We are getting out of here." Just as she felt the ground beneath her shift violently, she spotted the old family portrait still clutched in her other hand. Its cracked frame felt hot against her skin as if it were alive, exerting a weight of sorrow and despair. The faces within it smiled back, twisting into grotesque versions of themselves, taunting her with unfulfilled promises of safety and warmth. "Mom!" Lily's voice jolted her from the trance. The girl was rooted to the spot in panic. "Run, Lily. Just run. Don't look back!" Sarah shrieked. Drawing every ounce of strength, Sarah pulled Jamie with her as they bolted toward the door. Cold shadowy tendrils snaked around her waist as if the very walls conspired to keep them within. "Get out!" Patrick's voice thundered, resonating from the depths of the shadows. "You can't escape your fate." They barreled through the door just as its hinges screamed, almost as if the very structure was alive and in agony. Sarah took one last glancing back through the jagged opening, but the terror that awaited them in the darkness was far worse than anything she had faced inside. Outside, the fog thickened like a living thing, swirling around their feet, whispering secrets of long-forgotten dread. The silver moonlight barely penetrated the gloom, the landscape appearing strangely warped, trees that seemed to twist into sinister shapes, the air thick with an unsettling silence. "What do we do, Mom?" Jamie trembled, his face a mask of worry. "Just stay close," she breathed, fighting the surge of panic. But as they stepped further into the wet darkness, an unsettling realization hit her: they weren't free yet. A shadow detached itself from the trees, gliding silently towards them. "You shouldn't have interfered," it whispered, its breath a cold caress against Sarah's skin. Sarah turned to run, but the ground shifted again, the one solid path beneath them cracking, opening into a swirling pit of shadows. "This way!" she yelled, yanking both children towards the gathering light of the motel entrance, but something stronger than fear bound her feet to the earth. "It's pulling us, Mom!" Lily cried, eyes wide as they darted from the encroaching shadow to their mother. "It's not over, not yet," the whisper echoed in the air, and panic spiraled within Sarah. Was this place truly cursed? Would they ever escape? Just as realization dawned, a deafening roar ripped through the night, shaking the very ground they stood on. Sarah hesitated, her heart racing, and that single moment of uncertainty felt like an eternity. What if freedom was just an illusion? With a sudden burst of terror, the shadows lunged forward, threatening to pull them into dark oblivion. What if they were too late? As the shadows surged forward, Sarah's instincts kicked in. With a fierce tug, she yanked Jamie and Lily toward the flickering light at the motel entrance. They stumbled, but she kept pushing, the hot breath of the darkness at their backs, a seething mass hungry for them. "Mom, they're coming!" Jamie shouted, fear erupting from his throat like a flame. "Keep moving!" she cried, desperation taut in her voice as she cast one more glance over her shoulder. The mass of shadows loomed larger, an army of darkness ready to reclaim its own. The light from the entrance pulsed like a heartbeat, a desperate sanctuary. Just a few more steps, but the ground trembled beneath them, fissures snaking out from where they stood. The motel, long abandoned, felt alive, breathing in the horror of the night. Faster! Sarah urged, yanking at Jamie, but the ground suddenly shattered, sending both children tumbling, their screams swallowed by the roaring darkness. She fell beside them, adrenaline overshadowing her fear. Scrambling to her feet, she pulled them up and bolted for the light. As they neared the threshold, its brightness shimmered like a thin veil, something weak yet fiercely protective. "Get in!" Sarah yelled, pushing Jamie and Lily ahead just as a chilling wind whipped around them, howling through the trees with the voices of the lost. They stumbled through the doorway, body colliding with a long-forgotten warmth. Inside, the motel lobby lay shrouded in silence, dust motes swirling in the fading light. Faded wallpaper peeled from the walls, and the floor creaked beneath them, a hollow echo of what once was. "Are we safe?" Lily wailed, eyes wide, filled with a haunting fear. For now Sarah panted, trying to catch her breath, but the air felt heavy, thick with tension. Shadows draped over the corners of the room, lingering as if waiting for an invitation to join. "I don't like this place, Mom," Jamie whispered, clinging tightly to her arm. "Neither do I," she admitted, her gaze darting around. Each flickering fluorescent light overhead felt like a heartbeat, taunting her to relax when every instinct screamed danger. Suddenly, the reception desk jolted, and Sarah's heart stopped. Something moved behind it, a figure, still as death, waiting in the half-light. A man, gaunt and shrouded in shadows, peered out with eyes that glowed faintly like embers. "You should have stayed away," he croaked. His voice scratched at her ears, a warning woven with menace. "Who are you?" Sarah demanded, stepping in front of her children, instinctively protective. "I know what happened here," he hissed, inching forward. "You're not the first to think they could escape it." His laugh echoed through the stagnant air, a sound devoid of humanity. The walls seemed to close in as memories of despair washed over Sarah. She could feel the weight of the motel's history pressing down on her, revealing glimpses of lost souls trapped in timeless torment. "What happened?" she pressed, breathless. He leaned closer, his face flickering between shadows. "The curse of this place makes its own rules. You're drawn in, trapped in what you saw in the darkness." That was merely a taste. Sarah's heart raced. "What do you mean? How do we get out?" "The truth is never meant to be found," he said cryptically, a smirk curling at the corners of his mouth. "But the more you dig, the deeper you'll fall." Panic surged within her. She heard the walls whispering again, a cacophony of desperate voices echoing her fears. They lived there, trapped like her, and it wasn't just a physical darkness, it was rooted in the souls lost within. "Run!" she shouted, turning towards the door, but the way back was sealed. Instead, more shadows emerged, filling the space, hungry and ravenous. The man grinned wider, revealing teeth too sharp for a human. "You'll stay with us." Forever the three of them pressed back, eyes wide with terror. Could they truly escape this time? Or was this their final resting place, their last stand against the darkness? Meanwhile, as the shadows thickened around them, a single thought sent shivers down Sarah's spine. What other secrets did this cursed motel hold? "Mom!" Jamie cried, pressing closer as the shadows began to twist and wriggle up the walls, alive, hungry, and choking the life out of the once familiar space. Sarah felt her breath accelerate, the air thickening with dread. The gaunt man's laughter echoed, a haunting melody laced with the sorrow of countless souls ensnared. "Sarah." Lily's voice trembled, her little hand shaking as she grasped at her mother's sleeve. It was the kind of fear that seeped into their bones, an icy dread that whispered promises of doom. "Stay close." Sarah growled, scanning the room for any hint of an exit, desperate for a way out that wasn't being swallowed by the looming shadows. But the more she searched, the more the motel felt like a living entity, warping and breathing around them. The fiend leaned entrapped in delight, eyes glowing brighter. "You think you can just waltz in and leave? This place feasts on fear, and you've brought your meal." He cackled, the sound twisting like shards of broken glass. "Don't listen to him," Sarah shouted, tugging her kids back. Panic surged, and the shadows swirled tighter, but her resolve hardened. "We're getting out of here." Then a sudden flash illuminated the room, a blinding brightness pouring in through the windows, chasing the darkness back momentarily. With the light came the sound, a haunting melody, soft and sorrowful. Voices joined, a lullaby laced with sorrow, echoing through the dust, the voices of the lost. "Sarah, listen," the man rasped, now 10 feet away, caught in the shimmering light. "They were just like you, looking for refuge, but they couldn't turn away from the truth. You must decide what you want more, the truth or your lives." "What?" she breathed, trying to comprehend as the shadows reeled back, momentarily subdued. "What truth?" "You're not the first to ask and you won't be the last," he said, his expression shifting. "But if you wish to learn, seek the heart of the motel." The word snaked in her mind, a sickening temptation. "The heart?" she whispered, glancing at the children. "Do you dare?" He pointed to a door behind the reception desk, heavily varnished but cracked like dried skin. It pulsed as if it held a life of its own, a heartbeat echoing in the stagnant air. "Mom, please, let us just get out," Jamie begged, his voice thick with panic. "No," Sarah snapped, shaking under the weight of the decision. "If there's a chance to understand this, to fight it, we can't take that risk." Lily cried, tears spilling down her cheeks. "It's a trap." The shadows stirred again, their hunger rising like a tide. Sarah felt the oppressive weight of their malice. The gaunt man's laughter trickled back into her ears, echoing with the souls imprisoned within the walls. "We'll be waiting," he rasped, stepping back into the darkness, a sinister smile freezing on his face. "But are you brave enough to uncover the heart?" A surge of adrenaline pulsed through Sarah. She could feel the call of the door behind the desk, the promise of discovery, but also the threat of unimaginable horror. "Mom," Jamie pulled at her sleeve, "we need to go. We need to go now." But the lure of the door, the heartbeat resonated, a rhythm echoing back to her, a sick fascination mingled with terror. "Mom." Lily's voice was barely a whisper now, hesitation draping over each word. "Do we dare?" Sarah asked hesitantly, her heart pounding with the weight of the choice looming ahead. In that haunting moment, an unsettling silence fell, the shadows waiting, watching. Sarah inhaled deeply. In her heart, she felt the motel's truth circling closer. What if it knows? What if it's all a lie? Her thoughts spiraled, uncertainty gripping her. Just then, the sounds of wailing echoed from behind the door, chilling and desperate. It beckoned to her, pulling her closer. What truth lay behind that door? Would it reveal salvation or damnation? As the shadows shifted restlessly, an answer fled from her grasp, lost in the growing darkness. The echo of a horror that begged to be unveiled filled the air, and with that, Sarah stepped toward the door, the whispers intensifying. Behind her, the shadows began to close in again, hungry and unforgiving. Would they escape the grasp of the motel, or was this the moment the darkness consumed everything they ever knew? The door loomed larger with each step Sarah took, the air getting thicker as the shadows writhed hungrily, brushing against her like cold fingers. Her hands were clammy, and her heart thundered so loudly it drowned the fading wails. Jamie and Lily were tugging at her, their small bodies trembling with fear. The contrasts of their innocence against the impending horror tightened her resolve. "No," she whispered to herself, shaking off the petrifying grip of dread. "It was just a door. Just wood and varnish, right?" But it felt alive, throbbing with a heartbeat that would not let go. "Mom, please," Jamie begged again, his voice shaky, "let us go back." But what if this was the only way to save them? The only way to understand whatever darkness was feeding off their fear? She needed to know. I need to see," she managed to say, her voice trembling but resolute, barely rising above the symphony of torment behind the door. "Mom!" Lily's eyes were wide with tears, breaking Sarah's resolve for just a moment. It was a motherly instinct that clawed at her heart, making her want to scoop them up and run into the night. But behind them, the shadows clawed, urging her forward. "Just stay behind me," she ordered, fear twisting her stomach into knots. She reached for the doorknob. It felt warm, almost responsive, vibrating under her touch, sending a thrill of terror through her body. "Here goes nothing," Sarah whispered, steeling herself. She turned the knob, expecting a shriek of protest, but it swung open easily, revealing a dimly lit corridor that stretched into a shroud of darkness. "Mom!" Jamie shouted, his grip tightening on her arm. "Stay close," Sarah called back. With every step into the hallway, the shadows pulsed, retreating and surging in a dance of sinister anticipation. The oppressive gloom seemed to whisper secrets, eager to divulge their long-forgotten tales. These walls had seen horrors. She could feel it each step dragging heavier against her spirit. It was an invitation, a seduction to unravel the mysteries that echoed in the motel's pulse. The corridor branched into other passages, every direction cloaked in impenetrable shadows. "Mom, I don't like this." Jamie's voice trembled again, but there was an undeniable shift of temptation that pulled Sarah forward. The walls were marked, faint trails and scratches, memories left by those who came before. Her footsteps echoed, creating an eerie music that seemed to beckon her deeper. The shadows stretched and flickered, morphing into shapes that twisted her thoughts, hinting at things unseen. Suddenly, the air shifted. A sound louder now, more frantic, pierced through the silence. It was a chorus of despair, a symphony of tortured souls tangled in fright. The wailing crescendoed, rising until she felt it wrap around her throat, choking her resolve. "Mom, we have to go back," Lily cried, her voice a frantic plea, but Sarah felt anchored, a moth drawn to the flame. "I have to know," she murmured, almost to herself. She pushed deeper into the darkness, where the echoing cries originated. Each heartbeat of the motel grew louder, and ahead, she could see flickers of light through the shadows, pulsating like a beacon. What was waiting for them? Shadows danced frantically, and the whispers greeted her like old friends who had been waiting a long time. She could almost hear the truth so close she could reach out and grasp it. She took another step, then another, ignoring Jamie's cries behind her. Then, out of the darkness emerged a figure. Eyes wide, a gaunt reflection of sorrow stared back, a face twisted into despair yet somehow familiar. "Leave," now it rasped, voice echoing with 1,000 regrets. But Sarah was frozen. She stood at the edge of understanding, knowing the shadows beckoned with promises that came at a dire cost. Would she listen to the warning, or was it too late? "Mom!" Jamie's voice snapped her back. The shadows roared, hungry and ravenous, the lights flickered wildly. What truth did they hide? Would Sarah risk it all to find out, or would the shadows pull them back and consume everything? A decision loomed like a fog, thickening around them. The shadows surged forward, a mass of swirling darkness that pulsed with terrible intent. Sarah's breath hitched as she fought the instinct to flee. The figure before her twisted in agony, its hollow eyes fixed on her as if begging for salvation. Behind her, Jamie and Lily huddled close, trembling with fear, but she could feel something else behind the terror, a creeping curiosity that whispered in her ear, beguiling her. "Mom, please." Jamie grabbed at her arm, his grip tightening. Sarah could feel his small fingers digging into her skin, a painful reminder that they weren't alone in this journey. "Stay with me," she urged, trying to sound more confident than she felt. She took a step closer, her senses enveloped by the oppressive air. A flicker of illumination caused shadows to contort, revealing grotesque shapes on the walls. Fingers stretched out as if trying to escape the very material that trapped them. "What do you want?" Sarah managed to croak, her voice a fragile thread amidst the cacophony of despair surrounding her. "Truth," the figure murmured, its voice like gravel. "Find it before they take you." A sudden chill swept through the corridor, wrapping around her like icy fingers and tightening her throat. Dirty whispers slithered past her ears, carrying a chorus of shrieks that vibrated through her very core. Sarah turned instinctively, searching the dark corners as if something will spring out at any moment. "Mom!" Lily's voice quivered, a thin ribbon of fear that snapped at Sarah's resolve. She turned back to the figure, its face shifting as if a mask was being pulled away. The familiarity gnawed at her mind. Who was this tortured soul? A ghost? A memory? Why are you here? Sarah found herself asking, the words tumbling out against her will. Because the figure began, its shape warping. Something is hungry, and you are but a snack. The walls trembled as if haunted by centuries of agony. The wailing crescendoed around them, making every breath Sarah took feel like a sacrifice. Panic rose, but the notion of turning back slipped further from her grasp. This place, this magnet for suffering, had woven itself into her fate. "Mom! I can't take this!" Jamie shouted, guilt cutting through her as she glanced back at her children. Shadows clawed at her from the depths, eager to make them part of their world, but the lure of revelation tugged at Sarah still. She took a step toward the figure, feeling the weight of time and loss behind its hollow stare. "What truth?" she challenged, holding on to desperation more than hope. "Beneath the floor the light will reveal," it rasped, the agony twisting into a warning, twisting over and over until she almost saw the ground react beneath her. "Sarah, let us go." Jamie's plea seemed to bounce off the walls, echoing into the dark with a futile urgency. With a shakes, Sarah felt the ground pulse and quiver, the shadows pressing closer, hungry for the warmth of life. She glanced back as the figure melted into shadow, morphing into discordant shapes that pulsed and shrieked. She was seconds away from succumbing to the terror, seconds from turning back. "Stay with me!" Sarah shouted back to her kids in a show of bravado, though inside, she felt the collapse of her will. The faint light flashed in the corridor, an odd flickering that beckoned her forward like a mirage across sun-baked lands. "No!" Jamie's voice screamed, drowning in the rising tide of darkness. Sarah's heart raced. Was that light a savior or a trap? It danced just ahead, pulling and pushing, and though every instinct warned her to retreat, she knew she had to push deeper. With one more glance back to the shadows, she surged forward, each step feeling like a declaration against the dark. Then the ground trembled violently underfoot. A crack split the floor wide, an abyss opening up with a wisp of light fighting to break through. And before anyone could react, the shadows erupted, a wave of chaotic despair crashing forward, shadows consuming everything in its path. "Mom! What is happening?" Lily cried, her voice shaking with the tremors of terror. "Hold on," was all Sarah could manage as she grabbed Jamie's hand tight, their grip now a source of shared terror. The light flickered once again, and just as they were about to cross the threshold, a figure emerged. "Find the truth," it seethed, a whisper that crept inside her skull. And in that moment, the abyss opened wider, and Sarah knew they were standing at the edge of something profound, something that would either save them or swallow them whole. Would she dare to leap into the unknown, or would the shadows claim them all? The ground beneath Sarah shook violently as the abyss widened, revealing an unfathomable darkness that seemed alive, a creature of the void. Panic surged like wildfire through her veins. Holding on to Jamie and Lily as they teetered on the brink of an endless fall, she felt the suffocating weight of despair pull them deeper into its cold grasp. "Mom, please!" Jamie cried out, his voice raw and desperate, pulling her back to reality amidst the chaos. She tightened her hold, feeling his small body trembling in her grip. "We can't let it take us. We need to find the truth." Each word pierced through her own fear, resonating like a battle cry echoing off the crumbling walls. With a final glance at the roiling shadows that pulsed hungrily just behind them, Sarah edged closer to the crack in the floor. The flickering light within seemed to whisper promises of salvation and revelation, its glow carving lines of hope in the thick blackness. Gathering her wits, Sarah whispered, "We have to jump." Lily looked up at her, eyes wide with fear. "What if we don't come back?" "Trust me." It felt like the only thing she could truly offer, a desperate wish wrapped in a prayer. In that moment, she chose hope over despair. With a shared nod, the three of them leaped forward, time stretching infinitely as they plunged into the unknown. The world twisted around them, colors melding and swirling like paint on a wet canvas. As they fell, a scream erupted from the darkness, but they passed through it, tumbling into a cacophony of sound that shattered the silence. They landed, hard. The impact sent waves of pain through Sarah's body, and she gasped, finding herself sprawled in a dimly lit room that felt somehow familiar yet suffocating. The walls appeared caved in, black with decay, and the air was thick with an acrid scent ringed with desperation. Her heart raced as she took in the surroundings, a grotesque tableau of peeling wallpaper and overturned furniture. "Lily! Jamie!" She called out, panic squeezing her throat. "Right here." Jamie's voice came from behind her, quivering. As Sarah turned, she glimpsed her children clinging to each other, eyes darting across the room. Just then, laughter bubbled beneath the oppressive silence, a low, chilling sound that seemed to emanate from the very walls. It felt like a memory clawing its way back into the present. "Mom, what is this place?" Lily's voice broke through the growing dread. "Maybe, it's the truth," Sarah whispered, fear surging anew. She felt a cold sensation creeping along her spine, wrapping its tendrils around her heart. The dark corners were not just empty, they shimmered with shapes, figures barely solid but watchful, eyes glinting with malevolence. "Look!" Jamie pointed at the far wall, where a mirror hung, cracked and tarnished. In its reflection, they could see shadows moving, not just their own. Faces twisted and silent screams flashed across the glass, lost souls trapped in torment. "What do they want?" Lily asked, clinging tighter to her brother as if that could shield them. The truth, a voice whispered through the mirror, a hideous echo of the figure they had encountered before. "It's always been here," waiting. Sarah took a step toward the mirror, compelled. Time seemed to flatten. She felt her reflection staring back, yet it wasn't he entirely herself. Flashes of chaos flickered in the glass, and she wondered who she was becoming. The world outside felt like a disconnected dream. "They're trying to tell us something," she yelled to Jamie and Lily, who remained frozen in fear. The shadows shifted closer, and for the first time, Sarah realized they weren't just passive observers. They were feeding off their terror, weaving tighter into the fabric of the room. "Find the truth or be consumed by it." The voice echoed, louder now, vibrating through her bones and resonating with the deepest parts of her soul. Suddenly, the mirror's surface rippled, and a hand, pale and ghostly, burst through, reaching for her, its fingers trembling with a sinister urgency. "Mom!" Jamie screamed as Sarah felt the echo of panic surge through her. What was she meant to uncover? Was this the revelation they had sought, or was it a lure into the very depths of despair? The hand twisted, clawing its way out, and with it came the sound of anguished wails. The room pulsed as if alive, shaking beneath the weight of truths long buried. "Don't touch it!" Sarah shouted, heart racing, yet her own body was betraying her, moving closer, drawn in against her will. She felt the pull of the shadows wrapping tighter. "Mom, run!" Lily's voice surged through the chaos, jolting Sarah back into motion. Yet as she turned to flee, the walls groaned. Were they sealing her fate or opening a doorway? What lay beyond the veil? Would they escape, or would they remain like the others, lost in the haunted depths forever? Time was running out. A decision had to be made. The truth beckoned, but at what cost? With a trembling heart, Sarah plunged forward, unsure of what awaited them or if the shadows would finally claim them. Would they wrestle free from the echoing abyss, or would they become the next victims in a haunting cycle? The mirror's hand clawed closer, its fingers desperate and twitching, slick with some unnameable essence. Sarah felt a surge of dread claw at her throat, her heart hammering like a drum of war. The hideous laughter echoed again, rising like a tide of malevolence. "Run, Mom!" Jamie's terrified shout prodded her to action. She grabbed Lily's wrist, yanking her away from the chilling spectacle. "Get back!" Sarah yelled, leading her kids toward the only visible exit, a door barely ajar, its edges blackened with decay. Shadows danced across the threshold, whispering of dangers lurking just beyond. As they stumbled through the doorway, the inside of the room transformed like a torn page from a nightmare. Walls extended infinitely, twisting into dark corridors, disappearing into nothingness. A sense of being followed prickled at Sarah's skin, as if the space itself were alive and breathing. "Where are we?" Jamie asked, his voice small. I don't know, but we have to keep moving," Sarah replied, though uncertainty gnawed at her. The corridor felt like being trapped in a maze of despair, with each turn bringing more disquiet. Flickering lights buzzed overhead, illuminating hastily scrawled words on the walls: "Look behind you, truth is pain, and run away." Each phrase sank into Sarah's heart, twisting in her chest like a serpent. "Mom!" Lily gasped, eyes wide. "What if that thing comes for us? We won't let anything take us." "Just stay close," Sarah breathed, forcing courage into her voice. They pressed forward, the shadows reaching out like gnarled fingers, scraping the walls in disappointment. As they turned a corner, they stumbled into a vast, dim room cluttered with old furniture and broken toys. It felt like an ancient playroom, abandoned yet infused with a sinister essence. The air was heavy, pressing down on them, making each breath a struggle. "Sarah," a voice, smooth and eerily familiar, echoed from the darkness. She froze, eyes searching for the source. "Sarah, come play." Her heart raced at the sinister lilt, echoing from somewhere deep within the room. It felt like the voice of a long-lost friend who turned into a monster. "No!" she yelled. "We're not playing." In an instant, figures started to materialize out of the shadows, children with hollow eyes and frozen smiles. They surrounded Sarah and her children, giggling a haunting melody, their whispers blending into a dreadful chorus. "Join us!" Panic seized her as she realized they were not just echoes, they were remnants, cursed to relive this moment for eternity. They lunged closer, their transparent hands reaching out as if desperate to claim their new companions. "Mom, we can't let them take us!" Jamie shouted, backing away, clutching Lily's hand. Suddenly, Sarah noticed a flicker of light at the far end of the room, where it felt as if the shadows receded just slightly. A glimmer of hope. She'd take any glimmer amid the nightmare. "Over there. Move!" she commanded, feeling a surge of adrenaline rush through her. Together, they dashed toward the light, the ghostly children swirling around them in a frenzy, shrieks mingling with undercurrents of laughter that sliced through the air. The walls closed in, shifting and looming above them like the jaws of a beast ready to swallow them whole. "Faster!" Sarah urged. As they neared the light, it expanded, illuminating a doorway that promised escape. But the laughter grew louder, a shrieking cacophony filled with rage that threatened to pull them back into the abyss. The moment their hands grasped the doorframe, Sarah felt the cold grip of despair reach out, the shadows clawing and dragging at her ankles, a final desperate attempt to reclaim their prize. "Mom, help!" Jamie cried, but the shadows pulled him back, mere inches from escaping. "No!" Sarah screamed, scrambling to grab him as she felt the icy breath of the void curling around her neck. She yanked with everything she had, grasping his arm, but the shadows bore down, relentless and smothering. "We have to go now," she shouted, tearing Jamie free against the overwhelming weight of darkness. They surged through the doorway together just as a howl of rage filled the air behind them, echoing a warning and a promise. The moment they passed through, the door slammed shut, locking the darkness behind them. But as they stumbled onto the other side, their surroundings shifted once more, revealing a hallway of mirrors, each reflecting their worst fears. Sarah's breath hitched. Was the nightmare over, or had they merely exchanged one prison for another, as the reflections contorted and twisted, repeating promises of secrets yet to be uncovered? A chilling sensation washed over her. She felt they hadn't escaped, they were just beginning to understand the truth of the horror that awaited them. A final whisper echoed behind her, the voice of the abyss: "You can never leave what lay deep within the mirrors." And would uncovering the truth finally set them free, or drag them deeper into the darkness? With trembling hands, Sarah took a step into the hallway of mirrors, where her reflection bounced back myriad versions of her: a haggard mother, a confident woman, and twisted shadows of fear. The air felt electric, charged with dread, and she could almost hear the whispers of the shadows as they coiled closer. "Look away!" Jamie shouted, but Sarah couldn't. The mirrors pooled memories, each one replaying the nightmarish snippets of the motel and its trapped souls, reflecting her deepest fears. "They're not real, Sarah." She scolded herself, banishing doubt as she pushed past the tormenting images. As they moved deeper, the reflections shifted and morphed. Faces twisted into grotesque smiles, each representing a lost soul, eternally bound to the darkness. "Mom," Lily whimpered, clinging to Sarah's side, "I don't like this place." The innocence in her voice gnawed at Sarah's heart, forcing her onward. "We'll get through this. I promise," Sarah urged, but inside, the weight of uncertainty threatened to crush her spirit. How many had come before them, searching for answers, only to end up here, trapped in a cycle of terror? "Mom! Look!" Jamie cried out, pointing at the end of the hallway where a shaft of light burst through the darkness, glowing like a beacon of hope. "Do you see that?" "Yes." Sarah's heart raced as she filled with new determination, the warmth of that light beckoning to them. But as they neared, the shadows in the mirrors darkened, swirling violently, refusing to let them escape. The laughter of the forsaken reverberated in a haunting chorus, desperate to pull them back. "Stay close," she ordered, gripping both children's hands tightly. "Run!" They screamed together, their small voices united against the overwhelming tide of despair. They bolted towards the light, breathless and terrified, desperate not to join the many forgotten souls behind them. As they approached, their reflections flickered, and the sound of laughter turned into anguished howls, resonating loudly in their ears. "Almost there," Sarah urged, but the shadows surged forward, black tendrils clawing at their heels, snaking around their ankles with cold, clammy fingers. Jamie stumbled, and Sarah felt a spike of terror. "I've got you!" she shouted, yanking him back into motion as they barreled toward the radiant aperture. Then came a deafening roar, shadows twisting and clawing at their backs, urging them to slow down, to succumb. As they reached the light, Sarah pulled her children tight, using every ounce of strength. Now! They leaped through the threshold, light exploding around them, blinding and searing. It swallowed them whole, lifting them from the clutches of despair, and for a split second, they felt weightless, suspended in an ocean of brightness. Then abruptly, they landed hard on asphalt. Sarah gasped, her heart racing, and immediately shot up to see the motel receding into the distance, a silhouette against the open sky. "Did we make it?" Lily murmured, looking around in disbelief. Jamie blinked and then shuffled closer to his mother, mud streaked across his cheek, their clothes dirted from the escape. Sarah took a deep breath, inhaling the fresh air that tasted of freedom, relief flooding her senses. "Yes, we did," she exclaimed, a rush of tears stinging her eyes. "No more shadows?" Jamie asked, scanning the surroundings, which felt starkly different. "None," Sarah assured, though uncertainty lingered in her heart, reminding her of the many souls they may have left behind, forever tethered to that haunting place. But today, they were free. As they walked away from the motel that threatened to consume them, Sarah felt the weight of a burden lifting. The world outside felt bright, full of life, as if they had emerged from a darkness so deep that the mere light felt miraculous. "Maybe we can start again," she whispered, echoing her silent promise as they turned, knowing the road ahead was theirs to travel. With Jamie and Lily by her side, navigating a new beginning seemed possible, each step a testament to resilience, each moment savored in the warmth of their united hearts. The echoes of the haunted motel faded in the distance, a testament of survival, their shadows left behind, a last reminder of what they had overcome. But just then, a chilling breeze unfurled behind them, carrying with it a quiet whisper weaving through the night. "You can never truly leave." And as Sarah looked back at the darkened figure of the motel fading from view, she realized that while they had escaped the physical confines, the echoes of the past would remain forever imprinted in their hearts. The journey of healing was just beginning. Now, as they took each tentative step into the promising dawn, one thing was for certain: they would face whatever awaited them next, together. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. It helps more than you know. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Your thoughts matter, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to support the channel. Only true fans understand the importance of these actions.